This is the Realty Classroom Podcast, episode number 104. Would you work for 5%? Are you a real estate agent with an entrepreneurial spirit who wants to turn your job into a business without sacrificing your lifestyle, but you just can't seem to find the right plan to help you get there? Well, then, hey, you're definitely in the right place. I'm Danny Griffin, the founder of the Realty Classroom and the host of this podcast. Now, to help you take immediate action if you want to improve your business, I've created a little free jumpstart course for you that'll help you get in a more strategic direction, and it's waiting for you over at freeagentgift.com, freeagentgift.com. I know everybody has a short attention span these days, but this is what I use in my own business, my active brokerage called the Griffin Realty Group, and in the Realty Classroom for our intimate one-on-one strategic coaching that I do with top producers across the country and Canada. And they use this, and this is what we use to protect ourselves with all this change, since the last debacle of the recession and all the change of everything that goes on digitally in our world. You have to have a strategic plan so you can adopt your plan, okay, to meet the new challenges. And as we sit here recording this, we have some really strange challenges out there these days, and you better be ready, okay? All right, let's get back to work here. Would you work for 5%? I know it doesn't sound like much when you first think about this, but this is a really important concept that comes up. And it's sort of like I want to pull us up out of the microeconomics of what we do in the real estate business to remind you that you are an independent contractor, an independent business owner. That's what you are. You have decided to go out and get a real estate license instead of going and becoming an employee for a corporation, for example. Now, I'm not saying that some of you aren't employees that work in that capacity for real estate agents, but the majority of us are independent contractors. In fact, as we go through all these changes of the modern era, we are in an era of the independent contractor. Fewer and fewer people are hiring you, us, them, we, as employees. It's just going by the wayside for a lot of small businesses because as we do more and more digitally and remotely, a lot of us want to start our own independent contracting business. We don't want to be told what hours we're there. Companies would rather hire by the contract. I know I would. In my corporation, I don't have any employees except myself and my wife. We're the only ones, quote unquote, that are the employees because that was what the recession and the change in the economic environment told us was smart business. So we set ourselves up that way. And I want to help you with the correct thinking when you're a business owner. And again, sometimes this is easier said than done. Okay, I have 5 kids. I have a lot of household expenses to live a certain way and to take care of those kids. So the burden on my small business to take care of what's outside is heavy. And so it's not always easy to even do what I'm about to tell you to do. But if you have discipline, it is. So I'm talking to myself as much as I'm talking to you in this one, but it's a critical concept. And if you can set it up early on, especially you that are new to the business, and you can start this discipline off, but all my top producers are going to say, there he goes again, agitating us. Yes, because I'm you and you're me. So let's get after this, right? The first point here is in Gerber's world, Michael Gerber's world, there's this conflict of these 3 personas of the small business person. Michael's book, The E-Myth, again, so impactful for so many of us because it just embodied this struggle that we have, this entrepreneurial myth that we can just quit the job and start this independent contracting thing, and we know the technical work and off the business will go. It doesn't work like that. You see, because we are very much so the business, and the way our business is or we want it to be is a manifestation of the way we see ourselves. And he's the first one that ever made me aware through his body of work. My mentor introduced me to it, but I was made fully aware that there really are 3 personas. And I think it's true for every company, but especially when it's just you and nobody's coming for you, you know what I like to say. So we better have 3 different perspectives. 1, the owner. He calls that the entrepreneur, but I'm going to call it the owner for this sake because it makes it very clear and easy to understand what I'm talking about in this podcast, okay? You're the owner / investor / visionary / entrepreneur, all encompassing, the person at the top of the heap, the real boss, the chairman of the board, right? That's you. That's one of the perspectives. And I know a lot of you, it's this insecurity. Well, who am I to be that? Well, the minute you said, I want to do this as a real estate agent, you signed up for it. Now, I know you weren't aware of it, and most of us weren't because nobody teaches us to think this way. We just get right down and dirty and we go get our license, we hang it at some brokerage, and we go to some meetings and we hope something's going to happen. But nobody really, and brokerages are a little uncomfortable with this too. They don't really want to celebrate the fact that you are a business within a business because that's what you are. An independent contractor is truly its own business. You have to worry about your own taxes and filings, etc. And the brokerage is there to add some value in a partnership of two businesses. But people just don't celebrate that. At my brokerage, we do. We make it very clear. We train this. We transparently talk about this all the time, that I am a business that gets together with small independent contractor individual agents and tries to offer a level of services. That's what it is, right? So I think like that owner. I want them to think like that owner. There's no conflict in that. It's two owners getting together. Kind of cool. Very empowering for the new agent who comes to our brokerage, right? So that's the way we think about the owner at the top now that we're fully aware of that person. And sometimes if you dismiss that person as the entrepreneur or visionary, you don't really think about them regularly. This is the key point why I'm going to use different language and call it the owner. If you're not thinking like that boss regularly, you sort of take your eye off the ball as to what's most important here. And that's ownership. You're the boss. And if you only have this once a year moment before or after the holiday season and you say, we're going to sit down and have that vision, and I'd strap myself into a box in a room in a sequestered area and we do a vision board and we do this and then we come out and that's the end of it. So I think there are very important parts of the year where we should take a fresh look at our goals. I think it's more quarterly. I think if you follow a Wall Street public company, you think about the way they report once a year called a 10K report. 10Qs are quarterly reports. Yeah, you have those reports to think about, and I think that's a good time to check your vision. Make sure you're there. But the second point here I want to make is what is the what is the owner? And the owner is the investor. This is the person inside of you that has decided to invest your time, your energy, and if it takes a little bit of money to get up and get going and started, your money, your cash. And this is all in lieu of doing something else, including going to work for somebody else for a salary as an employee. So you've made this decision to invest time, energy, and money in the real estate agent business. That's what you've done. I mean, if you join MLS, that's an investment. Right? If you have to pay for a desk, that's an investment. These are all investments you're making to get this business going, and it might require your cash if you don't have any sales up front. Well, it will require unless you have a workout with that other business, the brokerage, where there's a grace period. But there's not to get your license. There's not to get in there and get started on MLS. So you're in. You're in. And what do you want when you're in? A return on that investment. R.O.I. If you've ever heard that before, ROI, people throw it around like it's just, such an easy term to understand. Well, it's simple, but oftentimes completely lost on us. I want an ROI on this. I want an ROI. Okay, slow down. I just want to get a return on my effort. If I put some effort and some money in to get started, I'd like to sell something and get some money back coming in. That'd be a pretty good first return on the investment of my time, energy, and money, wouldn't it be, right? But let's talk about the financial discipline that I wished I had always had. I've had it sporadically. It's strange. It's just strange how things work. You just get caught up in so many things and the brain has so many things to think about. We lose discipline. But I want you to think like some of the most successful investors in the history of our modern era. And the first name that comes to mind for me is Warren Buffett. And Buffett is a huge fan of very straightforward, simple value investing. In other words, he's looking towards value things. He's looking towards something he simply understands. That's not rocket science. If it's beyond his understanding, he doesn't go for it. And more importantly, he thinks about long term, and he always has. And he's quipped several times before that I could teach anybody to be rich, but nobody has the patience to do so. Nobody wants to be in it for the long run. So let's break that down for us independent contractors who aren't going to go manage a hedge fund anytime soon and say, well, what do you mean? How would you apply his principles to what we do? Well, first of all, you have to think like, I want as fast as possible a return on investment. Don't use the language. I learned this when I, in fact, was working for a venture capital company, fresh out of school a couple years, where they felt that if somebody learned how to lose money early on, that wasn't the type of person. Now, remember, these are small businesses. They were independent businesses, and there was a choice to invest in their company or not. And at that small stage, that early stage, it was very much about that person and how they thought. And if the language was, well, we're going to make money well down the line. I mean, I know today you can go look at a lot of companies that are losing enormous amounts of money and people are piling capital into them. I get that. You're not going to see Buffett do that anytime soon, and I'm staying with him. So let's go back to this. Let's think about, okay, you're going to put some energy into this. You're going to learn some basic techniques. And this is why that freeagentgift.com site becomes really important. I'm going to show you what to do in that order of thinking to be as successful as possible, as quickly as possible, to keep getting income coming in so there's something to talk about for the investor. All right? We need some revenue coming back in. We have some expenses going out, revenue back in, and then we'll determine what the return is. So thinking like that owner and demanding from the very start that we don't just dismiss it. Oh, it's going to take me a couple of years to get, Don't think like that. Come at this business right away. See, I had no choice when I started it. We had tried some other small businesses that weren't quite working out, and I had 2 little babies at home. There was no time to think about, someday. No, I needed revenue. I needed a return on the energy in the business quickly. But that's one type of return. That's really just making revenue happen, making the rain, okay? So I'm talking more so about this split personality. In my case, I wasn't acting as the owner, and I definitely really wasn't cognizant of being the manager in the middle. I was just being the technician or the sales guy who's going to get paid. So a sales guy persona, in my case, was running my business. And there wasn't necessarily anything wrong with that guy because that was the hunter-gatherer who had needed to go out and hunt and gather for his family. Put some energy into this business, bring some money home, put some food on the table, rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat. And that's what I did. But I knew better. I'd come out of being a student of analytics in Wall Street environments in Boston. I was working for an analyst, and I knew how to look at income statements, balance sheets, statements of cash flow, and I knew that's what we did and how companies ran, and I got to look at big companies in the chemical industry. Then I went to venture capital, and I got to look at small companies that were up and coming and how they would attract venture capital money. Same thing, looking at income statements, balance sheets, cash flow statements. And these are just, again, you can go get a basic book on these types of things and understand from an investment standpoint what they mean. No rocket science. Probably some of the simplest math you'll ever see. Don't be intimidated by it. But all along, there's this investor that has to put the money up, and they don't have control over the management. They don't really have a say in the sales department. They're being asked to write a check in lieu of investing in something else, and they're looking for a rate of return on that. They're looking for a percentage. And so this is why I asked the question at the beginning of the podcast. Would you work for 5%? Okay? As an investor, as an owner, start to fill in these blanks for you here. Would you work for 5%? And the answer is absolutely you would. You want me to prove it? A lot of retirees that put their money into a mutual fund, a market fund that has a broad base of stocks that deliver dividend as they get older is because they need the income. So depending at which price the stock is purchased and what they pay out, the rate of return can be 2.5%, 3%, be really good to be 4 or 5%. Go look it up. Go Google it. Right now, as I'm recording this, I think the average dividend payout for public companies was around 2 and change percent. Doesn't sound like much, but if you have millions of dollars and you're making 2%, and that's part of the way that you live off of your retirement income, it works. And for a lot of people, it does, because they saved well and sold companies or whatever it might be. And they call it like sort of like a clip and a coupon every month. They get paid, and it's investment dividend income. And that's just the way it works. So what if we could just set our businesses up that owner could get 5%? Well, you'd be 100% more than what a Wall Street fund might be delivering. And that's before fees, etc. Starting to sound pretty interesting here, isn't it? So the point is, how do you do this? Right from the get-go, what I would do is I would immediately go out and set up a savings account that's aligned with my business checking account. And every single time a commission check came in, now, of course, the cost of doing business is being at the brokerage and whatever it may be. And for you broker owners, this is right off the top, right? Whatever money comes into your independent contractor business gross, okay? Meaning after you pay, and if you're an agent, I suggest after you pay the agency, that's gross to you, to your company. You still have to account for what you paid them because that's a cost of doing business. But when it comes into you, automate 5% off that number. Automate it. Whatever it is, however small it seems, however ridiculous. And I was explaining this to my wife just the other day. It's more so about the mindset. You can't always do it, you feel. You can't always hold on to it because the business is starving for something. Your life needs cash flow. I get it. But if you begin with the discipline, all of a sudden everything, the way you manage your business, that second persona, begins to change. You don't become so lackadaisical and whimsical in the choices that you make because you are trying to protect the owner to get their 5%. Now, this comes off the top for a reason. Because you'll keep making excuses that, it's so tough to manage and whatever I do, I don't know what lead gen works and my conversion is okay, and all these management issues that are going to come up no matter who you are, where you are. Let's just eliminate them from the beginning and take a nickel, 5%, okay, 5% off the top and put it away into a savings account and force it. That leaves you 95% of the gross commission income to screw it up, okay? You get it? You get the point? So I've automated for the owner, and the owner sits back and says, hey, thanks so much. I knew I could trust investing in you. Wonderful. And the owner continues to get paid every deal. Not someday, that day. That's you, by the way. This is a tripolar situation. I'm talking to you as the owner, and this is everybody. This is not exclusive to somebody down the road. Don't blow me off on this. It's a financial discipline for independent contractors. Every independent contractor should do this because the discipline is incredibly powerful. So it's off the top, not the bottom. The bottom is the bonus. Think about it that way. If you take it off the top, you have your automated 5%, and you can even move that into your retirement fund automatically so that we're taking advantage of the tax benefits, and you'll see in a second how this interest thing is really going to kick in. But if you take it off the top and not the bottom, now you have a chance to manage this frugally. Like you're very frugal with what you spend and how you do it, and you start to find formulas where really what you spend on gives a great return and you don't waste money. So now you bring some more money to the bottom line. So after the nickel comes off the top and then you pay all your expenses, there's still some money. And I mean, of course, you have to pay your lifestyle, etc. But what if you could squeeze another 2% at the bottom? Now we have 7%. Pretty cool, huh? So you automate it off the top, not the bottom. If you become a good manager, that's the body of work here, folks. I'm here to help you manage it better. Have a better system. Be tighter. Be frugal. Let's squeeze the most out of what we can and still grow. That's the endeavor here. But I want to talk to the owner today. Off the top, not the bottom, automatically into a savings account, swept over to your investment account. Now, here's a very simple investment concept. I'm not here to give investment advice. That's on you and your investment manager, but it ain't rocket science, folks, and don't let somebody tell you it is. You can automate the growth of your money. Duh. It's called compound interest. It's a fascinating concept. Now, I'm going to open up my computer here for a second while I'm doing this because I went to an interest calculator to prove that this isn't some concept that is just available for the wealthy of us in the real estate business. I took a little bit less than the median salary, what have they called? That's not even the right word for it, but on the website that I found, it's let's just call it what the agent is able to take after splits with a brokerage, okay? It's about $40,000 in the United States. Okay, $40,000 in the United States. And of course, there are people that do better. Some people do that part-time, whatever. It doesn't matter. But let's just say if you went over to a company like Vanguard, and Vanguard's an investment company that's very intriguing to a lot of people because the founder, Mr. Bogle, now since gone, he really proliferated this whole concept of what was happening to us, right? Now, in this case, Mr. Bogle, he believed that you could bet on the market in its entirety, or at least a large sampling of it, and do really well over time. So again, this whole concept of this long-range approach to investing and this automation, this stuff works. So by not trying to be an active management company when it came to the fund, like an S&P index fund. You've probably heard about electronically traded funds and index funds. What the intent is that there is less active management of guessing which bundle of stocks is going to do well, and instead a large sampling of the market, multiple stocks are bundled into a fund. In other words, the average investor is able to buy into a fund rather than individual stocks, which gives that protective device automatically to the individual investor. So how's it work? So for example, in a Vanguard, in full disclosure, I own a Vanguard fund. That's the S&P 500 fund because I try to practice this. I try to teach it to my kids. Again, I'm just conceptual here. This is no financial advice. You do what you want. I'm just telling you how the simple math works, and I'm giving you an example, okay? So for example, I believe it's called their Admiral S&P fund, to be technical. There's an initial investment requirement of $3,000. So let's presume that the average agent has $3,000 so that they could open up a fund like this to gain access to it. So I'm looking in front of me at a compound interest calculator where I've taken this and I've said, okay, let's presume that the average agent has the $3,000 to start so they can get in the game like that. There are others, but again, I recommend the super lowest cost fund you can get. You don't need to pay a lot of fees if you're just trying to buy the market rate of return over a long period of time. Now, let's just take the $40,000 median number that I was able to pull off the internet right before recording this, and then take that and say, all right, take the 5% of the 40. What do you get annually? $2,000. Divide the $2,000 to a monthly contribution. That spreads it out. So again, this is going to change your formula slightly, but you'll get the point here, right? Let's presume that I take $167 every month and I scrape it out and I add it to the original $3,000. So you could even this out as a real estate agent. Let's just say you make your first score and you spread out that $2,000 over time. It's there, and you start to scrape out $167 a month. Now, I said, what if you sat still and just had a 20-year horizon? Hell, my 20-year horizon. Who could sit still for that long? Well, your life is going to go by, and you're going to scratch your head at the end of 2010, whatever it's going to be, and you say, why didn't I do this? And if you're older, so what? Just contribute more. Be more aggressive with this and start. It's better to start than to sit there and whine, I shoulda, coulda, woulda. Just do it anyway. It'll help your mindset. So I have a 20-year horizon, especially for all of you that are in your 30s or 40s. I mean, you're right on top of this right now. And the estimated, and by the way, if you're younger, oh, delicious, right? Now, the estimated interest rate, I went back. Okay, I'm going to be aggressive here. It's a pretty decent rate of return, but it's a real one according to some of the fact that's out there. That what is the return on the S&P 500 index? And back then, it only went at 1926, I believe, is when this was established. This concept of an index to track the marketplace called the S&P 500, Standard & Poor's 500. So what you look at is that the return since 1926 to now has averaged, hold on to your hat, 10 to 11%. That's stunning. Now, again, this doesn't account for fees, and that's why I'm saying over time, whatever you're going to pay the investment company for fees, you want to keep it the lowest you can, or they're going to kill that return. And if it's simple, active managed funds are different. I'll leave that up to you. This is a passively managed fund, meaning it's just trying to track the index, so it doesn't cost them a lot to do it, so they don't charge you a lot. So look at those fees that they would charge you, because that will affect, maybe you add that on top of your monthly contribution in your head or whatever. So the calculation will change. But for sake of argument, we put in 10%. I took the lower of the two numbers. And then I said it compounds annually. In other words, whatever I put in, we calculate the interest on that total at the end of the year, right? And then it does it year after year after year. So presumably, if you're getting 10% every single year, you did X plus 10%, and then that X plus 10 times 10%, right? See how it goes? That's how compounding works. And I just compounded annually. In 20 years, the $40,000 median income in real estate in the United States, in 20 years at 10% in an S&P 500, presuming you cover the fees separately, is worth $134,961.60. Just because you were dividend disciplined. I guess I'll put it that way. That's stunning, isn't it? I mean, that's stunning. And I showed my kids that imagine going outside of this and getting another job, doing a job on the side, and just taking all of that money and, putting that extra money into, whatever it is on top of what you've invested. I mean, it's just a fun game. It really is. And it's accessible to anybody and everybody right now. All right? Automate the growth of your money. So let me go back and say, would you work for 5%? I bet you would now. But it starts off by recognizing the conflict of the three personas of the independent contractor. You are the investor owner, and you better demand right off the top your 5%. And so what that means is take it right off the top of every commission that you get and put it in your savings account and sweep it into your investment account. And then automate the growth of that money by subsequently putting it into something that is less risky, and you go away and you don't try to play stock market trader. You go away and play the game of the average market return. And if you follow an index fund like the S&P 500, you can expect, I don't know, let's say a range of lower than the 10 will go to 8% to maybe good years 12%, but it's going to come in around 10, 11% less your fees. And that compounding is powerful. So let me summarize it this way. Most real estate agents don't even recognize or understand that as independent contractors, they can build a business that focuses on them as the owner investor first, and that they should automatically pay themselves 5% off the top of each commission into a savings account that is then swept into that investment account that takes advantage of compound interest growth. Grow your discipline, please, to think like the owner first, and then I have plenty of help for you when it comes to managing the business tightly and strategically, and being a great technician and being able to make it rain. All right? Hey, listen, please remember, take immediate action. Go over to the free simple business plan I have over there that helps you get strategic. It's over at freeagentgift.com. There's an infographic there that will help you keep focused on these three personas that you need. And now you're going to highlight today the entrepreneur/owner/investor. Also, don't forget to subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you listen. Please don't miss out on these insights each time we upload an episode. If this is your business, you got to work on it. You might as well do it with me. I'm giving it to you for nada. We also broadcast our live sales training calls on Facebook and YouTube every Friday, 1 o'clock EDT. So remember, turn on your page and channel notifications for the Realty Classroom, and you won't miss the reminders, and you can join us. Scheduled in. That'd be even better. We'd also appreciate it if you'd share our content with other entrepreneurially spirited real estate agents, independent contractors just trying to make it. They're just like you, and they need the same help. Share this, please. Remember, thank you so much for listening. I'm humbled by the opportunity to serve you, but nobody's really coming for you. So go get to work on your own business, and I'll see you in the next episode.